Namaste. Let us do chanting. Om Mama Upata Samastha Durita Kshayadvara Shri Parameshwara Prityartham Vidya Siddhyartham Cha Aham Idam Pujam Karishye. Om Gajananam Bhutganadisevitam Kapitthajam Bhuphalasarabhakshitam Umasutam Shoka Vinashakaranam Namami Vigneshwara Padapanchakam. Om Sumukhaya Namaha. Om Ekadantaya Namaha. Om Kapilaya Namaha. Om Gajakarnakaya Namaha. Om Lambodharaya Namaha. Om Vikataya Namaha. Om Vignarajaya Namaha. Om Vinayakaya Namaha. Om Dhumaketave Namaha. Om Ganadhyakshaya Namaha. Om Phalachandraya Namaha. Om Gajananaya Namaha. Om Vaktutundaya Namaha. Om Shurpakarnaya Namaha. Om Herambhaya Namaha. Om Skandapurvajaya Namaha. Om Shri Siddhivinayaka Swamine Namaha. Om Spatikarajatavarnam Mauktakim Akshamalam Amritakalasha Vidyam Jnanamudram Karagre Dadat Murigakaksham Chandrachudam Trinetram Vidrita Vividabhusham Dakshina Murtamide. Om Namo Bhagavate Dakshina Murtaye Mahyam Shriyam Medham Pragyam Prayacha Swaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Dakshina Murtaye Mahyam Shriyam Medham Pragyam Prayacha Swaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Dakshina Murtaye Mahyam Shriyam Medham Pragyam Prayacha Swaha. Om Omkara Simha Sarvendraya Namaha. Om Omkarodhyana Kokilaya Namaha. Om Omkara Nidashukaraje Namaha. Om Omkararanya Kunjaraya Namaha. Om Nagaraja Sutajanaye Namaha. Om Nagaraja Nijalayaya Namaha. Om Navamanikya Namaha. Om Navachandra Shikhamaniye Namaha. Om Nandita Shesha Maunindraya Namaha. Om Nandishadi Madeshikaya Namaha. Om Mohanal Sudhasaraya Namaha. Om Mohambuj Sudhakaraya Namaha. Om Mohandakara Taranaye Namaha. Om Mohotpalanabho Manaye Namaha. Om Jnanabdhishitanshave Namaha. Om Bhakta Jnana Trinalayaya Namaha. Om Bhakta Amboj Sahasranshave Namaha. Om Bhakta Keki Ghana Ghanaya Namaha. Om Bhakta Kairavara Kendave Namaha. Om Bhakta Koka Divakaraya Namaha. Om Gajananadi Sampujyaya Namaha. Om Gajacharmojjvala Kritaye Namaha. Om Ganga Dhaval Divyangaya Namaha. Om Ganga Pankila Satcharaya Namaha. Om Gaganambara Samvitaya Namaha. Om Gaganamukta Murdhajaya Namaha. Om Vadanabdajitabja Shriye Namaha. Om Vadanendu Spuratishaya Namaha. Om Varadanaika Nipunaya Namaha. Om Vanaviro Jwalatkaraya Namaha. Om Vanavasa Samullasaya Namaha. Om Vanaviraika Lulupaya Namaha. Om Tejaf Bhunjaganakaraya Namaha. Om Tejasamapi Bhasakaya Namaha. Om Vineyanam Tejaf Pradaya Namaha. Om Tejomaya Nijashramaya Namaha. Om Damitananga Sangramaya Namaha. Om Darahasa Jitanganaya Namaha. Om Dayarasa Sudha Sindhave Namaha. Om Daridra Dhana Shevadaye Namaha. Om Kshirendu Spatikākārāya Namaha. Om Kshiropahara Rasikāya Namaha. Om Kshiro Shipraishvarya Phalapradaya Namaha. Om Nana Bharan ॐ क्षीरोमुकुटोज्ज्वलाय नमः। ॐ क्षीरोपहाररसिकाय नमः। ॐ क्षिप्रैश्वर्यफलप्रदाय नमः। ॐ नानाभरणमुग्धाङ्गाय नमः। ॐ नारीसम्मोहनाकृतये नमः। ॐ नागभूषणभूषिताय नमः। ॐ नादब्रह्मरसास्वादिने नमः। ॐ नागभूषणभूषिताय नमः। ॐ मूर्तिनिन्दितकन्दर्पाय नमः। ॐ मूर्तामूर्तजगत्पपुषे नमः। ॐ मूलाज्ञानतमोभानवे नमः। ॐ मूर्तिमत्कल्पपादपाय नमः। ॐ तरुणादित्यसङ्काशाय नमः। ॐ तन्त्रीवादनतत्पराय नमः। ॐ तरुमूलैकनिलयाय नमः। ॐ तप्तजाम्बूनधप्रभाय नमः। ॐ तत्तुपुस्तोलसत्पाणये नमः। ॐ तपनोडुपलोचनाय नमः। ॐ यमसंयुमसत्कीर्तये नमः। ॐ यमसंयुमसंयुताय नमः। ॐ यतिरूपधराय मौनिने नमः। ॐ यतीन्द्रोपासविग्रहाय नमः। ॐ मन्दारहाररुचिराय नमः। ॐ मदनायुतसुन्दराय नमः। ॐ मन्दस्मितलसत्वक्त्राय नमः। ॐ मधुराधरपल्लवाय नमः। ॐ मञ्जीरमञ्जुपादाब्जाय नमः। ॐ मणिपट्टोलसत्कटये नमः। ॐ हस्ताङ्कुरितचिन्मुद्राय नमः। ॐ हठयोगपरोत्तमाय नमः। ॐ हंसजप्याक्षमालाढ्याय नमः। ॐ हंसेद्वाराध्यपादुकाय नमः। ॐ मेरुशृङ्गतटोल्लासाय नमः। ॐ मेघश्याममनोहराय नमः। ॐ मेधाङ्कुरालवालाग्र्याय नमः। ॐ मेधापक्वफलद्रुमाय नमः। ॐ धार्मिकान्तर्गुहावासाय नमः। ॐ धर्ममार्गप्रवर्तकाय नमः। ॐ धामत्रयनिजारामाय नमः। ॐ धर्मोत्तममनोरथाय नमः। ॐ प्रबोधोद्गारदीपश्रिये नमः। ॐ प्रकाशितजगत्र्याय नमः। ॐ प्रज्ञाचन्द्रशिलाचन्द्राय नमः। ॐ प्रज्ञामणिवराकराय नमः। ॐ ज्ञानान्तरभासात्मने नमः। ॐ ज्ञातृज्ञादिविदूरगाय नमः। ॐ ज्ञानज्ञात्वैतदिव्याङ्गाय नमः। ॐ ज्ञातृज्ञातिकुलागताय नमः। ॐ प्रपन्नपारिजाताग्र्याय नमः। ॐ प्रणतार्थ्यप्तिवाडवाय नमः। ॐ भूतानां प्रमाणभूताय नमः। ॐ प्रपञ्चहितकारकाय नमः। ॐ यत्तत्त्वमसि संवेद्याय नमः। ॐ यक्षगेयात्मवैभवाय नमः। ॐ यज्ञादिदेवतामूर्तये नमः। ॐ यजमानवपुर्धराय नमः। ॐ छत्राधिपतिविश्वेशाय नमः। ॐ छत्रसामरसेविताय नमः। ॐ छन्दशास्त्रादिनिपुणाय नमः। ॐ छलजात्यादिदूरगाय नमः। ॐ स्वाभाविकसुखैकात्मने नमः। ॐ स्वानुभूतिरसोददये नमः। ॐ स्वाराज्यसम्पदध्यक्षाय नमः। ॐ स्वात्माराममहामतये नमः। ॐ हाटकाभजटाजूटाय नमः। ॐ हासोदस्तारिमण्डलाय नमः। ॐ हालाहलोज्ज्वलगलाय नमः। ॐ हार्दग्रन्थिविमोचकाय नमः। ॐ श्रीमेधादक्षिणामूर्तिस्वामिने नमः। ॐ श्री दयानन्दसद्गुरुभ्यो नमः। ॐ श्री महेशानन्दसद्गुरुभ्यो नमः। Okay, so shall we do our class chanting? Om Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpadam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। कुकारस्त्वन्धकारो वै ऋकारस्त्वन्निवर्तकः अन्धकारनिरोधित्वात् गुरुरित्यभिधीयते। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्. So we'll do the Dasha mantras. Om Shanno Mitrah Sham Varunah Shanno Bhavatvaryama Shanna Indro Brihaspatihi Shanno Vishnurukramah Namo Brahmane Namaste Vayo Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahmasi Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahma Vadishyami Ritam Vadishyami Satyam Vadishyami Tanmamavatu Tadvaktaram Avatu Mam Avatu Vaktaram. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Yaschandasa mrishabho vishwarupaha Chandobhyodhyamritaat sambabhuva Samendro medhaya aspranotu Amritasya devadharano bhuyasam Shariram me vicharshanam Jihva me madhumattama Karna abhyam bhuri vishruvam Brahmanaf koshosi medhaya pihitaha Shrutam me gopaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Aham vrikshasya reriva Kirtif prishtam gireriva Urdhva pavitro vajiniva swamritamasmi Dravinagum savarchasam Sumedha amritokshitaha Itirtishankor vedanuvachanam. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Apyayantu mama angani Vakpranaschakshuh shrotramatho balamindriyani cha sarvani Sarvam brahma upanishadam Maham brahma nirakuryam Mama brahma nirakarot Anirakarnamastu anirakarnam me astu Tadatmani nirteya upanishatsu dharmaha Te mai santu, te mai santu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Vang me manasi pratisthita Mano me vachi pratishthitam Avir avir maedhi Vedasya maani isthaha Shrutam me ma prahasihi Anenadhitena Ahoratran sandadhami Ritam vadishyami Satyam vadishyami Tanmamavatu Tadvaktaram avatu mam Avatu vaktaram Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Bhadranno apivataya manaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। यो ब्रह्मानं विदधाति पूर्वं यो वै वेदांश्च प्रहिणोति तस्मै तं ह देवमात्मबुद्धिप्रकाशं मुमुक्षुर्वै शरणमहं प्रपद्ये। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। This last verse, I just thought of just spending a couple of minutes. Let me turn the audio on. This last verse, O yo brahmanam vidadhati purvam यो वै वेदांश्च प्रहिणोति तस्मै तं ह देवम् आत्मबुद्धि प्रकाशं मुमुक्षुर्वै शरणमहं प्रपद्ये. So this is an important and a very revealing verse, and we will talk more about this the general start of this kalpa. Because every kalpa is a new start, like every day is a new start. The day is not really a brand new start, but it's a new start in the continuation of one's life. So similarly, in the kalpa also, it's a new start, but it's a continuation of what was there in the previous kalpa. So what this verse says is that Ishvara first gave the instruction to Brahmaji. So Brahmaji, along with Brahma, not Brahman, but Brahmaji, the male, like Vishnu and Shiva and so on and so forth. So Ishvara gave the instructions to Brahmaji by way of reminding him about the teaching of the Vedas. So it's like, it's not as a brand new thing, but he just wanted to make sure that Brahmaji was creating the whole universe in the image of the Vedas, the four Vedas. So that's what it is saying, that my namaskara to you, O Ishvara, who has instructed in the beginning of this kalpa by giving the Vedas to Brahmaji. Yo brahmanam vidadhati purvam yo vai vedamscha prahinoti tasmai, who has really given him specific instruction that your creation of everyone else and how you teach and so on should be based on the perennial Vedas. He reminds him. Like early in the morning you do chanting and you sort of remind yourself this is what it is all about. So he says to my namaskara to that Atma Buddhi Prakasham, the one who has actually through the Brahmaji has given me the Atma Buddhi. So Atma Buddhi means that there is a general Buddhi. Buddhi means intelligence, the ability to know, to make discrimination, to make decisions, to resolve, all those kinds of things is buddhi. But out of them, the Atma Buddhi is something which slowly comes to some people, because you've sort of covered everything else and nothing seems to work totally. And so this is a very important and a rare buddhi that is given to for those of us that are trying to understand what Atma Buddhi is all about. So the prayer is that to Ishvara, that we thank you for giving me the Atma Buddhi. And as a mumukshu, as a person who really wants to, who's moktumichu. Moktumichu means one who really wants to solve this problem forever. This is the mumukshu who, I am at your feet, please help me. This is a prayer, and it is the ending of the the dasha shanti patha, the dasha mantra shanti patha. So it's a very appropriate one, and it connects me through Brahmaji to Ishvara. So that's what the verse is all about. Okay, so let us continue on with where we were last week. So this is very important that we are studying the Karika and the Mandukya Upanishad and Sri Gaudapadacharya ji's Karika on it, because it holds the kernel of how we need to think in our lives. It's a no holds barred, a understanding of what this is all about, what our experiences are, and how we should interpret the experiences in order to understand Atma Buddhi. And Gaudapadacharya ji has done a marvelous analysis of exactly what is going on and so on. And so this I find he's kind of like a specialized editor who is an expert in understanding where the defects in the composition are. So just like an editor, if you have let's say you have an extremely well-versed writer, and supposing you are teaching a course in a college on writing, on composition, then what you will do is you will bring to the class various compositions that people have written, and then you will ask the students to review them and to see what they think about it. And people will say, yeah, this looks good, this is maybe too long, maybe their points are being made repetitively. Like that, people can come up with some kind of an answer to what the assignment is. And then the professor, after giving the various examples of compositions, can now say, listen, here is the way I want you to look at them. So there is a very famous verse which I have cited before also. It says, Dosha darshanam pandita lakshanam. Dosha darshanam pandita lakshanam means that the definition of a pandita, so here pandita doesn't mean our pandit in the temples, although he's also good, they're also good. But here a pandita means one who is an absolute expert in Atma Buddhi. He's like a professor who is the best professor for Atma Buddhi. So the definition of the best professor is called Pandita Lakshanam. Lakshanam means a unique definition that distinguishes that person from all other all other Pandits. This is the person. That definition is dosha darshanam, because he knows the defects in the various compositions. So he can, for example, and this professor can say, listen, I appreciate many of you gave many of the answers and so on, but here's the way we should look at it. This composition did not state what it is all about, because a good composition means you have to give the basic of what you're going to talk about, etc. I'm just giving an example. Then you have to make certain points, keep them very cogent and lucid, and then summarize it. Like that you can see the structure of a good composition. Here, Gaudapadacharya ji is doing pretty much that in the Karika. Because there is the basic idea of what a composition is was given by the Mandukya itself. Na mantah pragyam, na bhaj pragyam vasa. The whole thing was very well laid out. Now the question is, if we do not quite understand it or don't have the capacity to absorb it, how should we do that? And so the composition of the Karika is dosha darshanam. So here he's bringing in the various compositions that people have, Buddhists, Sankhyas, Vaisheshikas, and saying these are the defects. So these are the various aspects, fallacies of the various philosophical compositions. And so here we should see that Vedanta is not a philosophy, as I've said before also. It is the fact. But in the sense that everything else which is not a fact is a philosophy. So seeing a rope as a rope is not a philosophy, it's a fact. But seeing a rope as something else, it can be many other things, is a philosophy. No, this is a snake. No, this is a hose. No, this is a garland which has been lying there. You can make any kind of compositions. And here are the defects. And those defects are being pointed out, and we will continue to see that today. So this is the value of Gaudapadaji's take no prisoners approach. You have to be absolutely certain. And as you know, just to reiterate, what he's saying is, do not waste any time arguing how the creation took place. There is no creation. At a certain level, yes, you can say there is creation. But that is just a temporary situation. This is just you are taking the help of a crutch. And that's fine until you really strengthen your thinking. But the end result is there is no creation. And even when you see the creation, it is not really a creation. But this is the ultimate that we all have to see. We have to aspire to. Where we are in the process of understanding is up to us. But this is what we have to aspire to. And this is what is being given. And I think the Alata Shanti Prakaranam with the analysis of Swami Paramarthananda does a superb job of summarizing all that has gone on before and then seeing where the defects are of the various philosophies and what we should look upon as a fact. And so this will be continued on. So this is the background that we're doing. So where we were was that Gaudapadacharya ji has examined the proposals for the explanation of the world, our experiences and so on, from various standpoints. As you know, there are 6 darshanas. This is called darshana. Darshana means these are various philosophies, out of which only one of them is a fact, the other ones are speculations. And so those are divided in, those are the 6 ones that are astikas. Astikas means those who look upon the word of Vedas as authoritative. They don't dismiss it. And so they have some misinterpretation of what the Vedas are saying. That's a different thing. That's how it creates the 6 darshanas. But they at least have a shraddha, a belief, trust in what the Vedas are saying. So these are the 6 ones. We've already gone through all of them. Then in addition to that, there are the Nastikas, who say, I don't believe in the Vedas, that's just somebody saying it. We have to reason it ourselves. We have to look at our experiences and see what works, what doesn't work. And if it matches the Vedas, fine. Otherwise, we don't have to really take their word for it. These are the Nastikas. And so here, in using the terminology of what is called Prathama Malla Nyaya, as we've explained it, the Prathama Malla Nyaya means that you don't fight with everybody. It's like the heavyweight championship fight. You ask people, okay, who's the best? Who's the one who has defeated everybody else? I want to fight with you only. I don't have to go through each one of them. So there, Buddhism comes closest to dismantling the ideas of others, because he says that it is mithya. Everything is mithya, and that's very close to what Vedanta is saying. In the end, however, even Buddhism makes a blunder. And so this was all pointed out, that Buddhism says that really the consciousness is a series of flickers, and it appears like it is real, like a movie. It's a series of frames, but if you run the frames very quickly, faster than your eye can see it, it looks real. There's no reality to it. And so we say, where is the moksha? Anyway, so finally the Buddhism, which is supposed to be the best amongst everybody else, is dismissed. Even in the West, for example, Buddhism has taken hold because for many people who do not quite understand and believe in the old Christian philosophy are attracted to Buddhism because you close your eyes and it is all within you, and you do meditation. You can also do some experiential meditation where you feel very calm, and this is this is it. This is it. But it doesn't lead to anything. Doesn't lead to, because it's not the truth. You cannot say that I'm a series of flickers. I'm not a series of flickers. In fact, this whole thing will come about now. So now, the analysis of the various darshanas was concluded in the verse 28. And in verse 29, the essence of the defects in all of them is now pointed out. It's a summary defect. In other words, it's a summary of what is wrong with everybody's doing it. And here is what is being said. They're saying, in Gaudapadacharya ji is saying, here Swami Paramarthananda also said that this is a very significant verse. Why is it significant? Because it summarizes the basic defect in the arguments of all of the other ones. And what is that? What it is the essence of what people are saying is that, listen, this creation non-creation, creation, non-creation. In other words, tree giving rise to seeds, seeds giving rise to tree, father giving rise to the children, children giving rise to more children, and then this whole thing is a never-ending stream. Has no beginning. Has no beginning. Even science now believes that there is no real creation, that it is always there. The matter never gets destroyed. It gets changed into one form or the other. It is always there. So they are all coalescing towards this view that this is a never-ending, never-beginning situation that happens. So we said, okay, all right, let us accept that for a minute. Let us look at the implications of this assumption. Okay? One is that you're saying that the change is eternal. In other words, it never really began. Don't ask us when it began, because did the karma began? And this also includes the Vedika view of karmas and upasanas. So the karma kanda and the upasana kanda is also under the purview of this. They also say that this is, in fact, the karma kandis sometimes, I would say often, do not even believe in Ishvara. They feel that the karmas of the people will take care of them. You don't need Ishvara, because this is just this happens automatically. It's just kind of like Stephen Hawking saying that, listen, I know everything about the world, I can explain it. You don't need any Ishvara or anything like this. So what? If you can explain it, first of all, it's a problem that you don't understand Ishvara's role in this. You are taking it on yourself. Secondly, just by understanding what is the end result, we have to look at that. So similarly, the karma theory also is that, and the karma theory has some logic to it, which says that if you keep on doing better and better karmas, then you have better experiences. You go to Swargaloka number 1, Swargaloka number 2, Swargaloka number 3. Like this, they have some kind of a theory about it, that it is what is called Krama Mukti, not Sadhyo Mukti. Sadhyo Mukti means right now, in this life itself, as Vedanta says. But they say it is Krama Mukti. This life is gone, forget about this. Just do your prayers and you'll get a better life next time. So the karma theory also means it is going to go on and on. So Gaudapadaji summarizes all the defects into a single one. They are saying, what is the original cause? This is called Moola Karanam. So everyone says there is no Moola Karanam. This continues on. There's no need to have Moola Karanam. Okay, if there is no need to have Moola Karanam, then here is another defect. When is it going to end? Oh, well, when moksha takes place. Everybody says moksha. It's not as though Vedantins are the only one. Buddhists also say moksha. They all have some kind of an idea of what moksha is. Well, then we ask, is the moksha there now? No, moksha is not there now. It's obvious, isn't it? We are all miserable, more or less miserable. And so moksha is not there. Moksha is going to come. So that means moksha is not eternal. Why is it not eternal? Because it will begin. You are already, this is what is called an oxymoron. Because something that begins is intrinsically not eternal. At one time it was not there. Okay, they say fine. But you know what? it will begin but it will never end. Illogical. We cannot find anything, an example. You have to give an example. You cannot give an example of something that begins but never ends. Anything that begins ends. This is the logic. And so moksha is not possible according to this theory that you have eternal cause-effect relationship. It never began. Fine, we understand that. But the question is, what is the end result? We are asking, what is the game? The game here is to gain moksha. And moksha is not possible because you're saying, it's a funny situation, you're saying that the problems are eternal, but moksha comes once in a while. Because moksha will begin and it can, who knows, it may go again. No, this is the central argument which says that karanam cannot be eternal and eternal cannot be karanam. Alright, so then what? What is the situation? The situation is that it is not a... Just one second, I want to... Okay, that will come a little bit later on. I can even bring it now. So, and I think I'll wait for that 2 point. That's an important point. I'll wait to do that. I'll slowly come to that point. Okay. So they say, well, what are you saying? Okay, you are criticizing us, but please tell us what you're saying. And in fact, Swami Dayananda used to say that. He says, if you talk to the scholars of Buddhism, people who are very well versed in the, they are really high up there in the research, understanding of Buddhism and so on, and really anything for that matter. You can go to, same issue happened in the Judaism, where Swamiji had some dialogues with some rabbis from Israel. And they also completely misunderstand what Hinduism is all about. And the Buddhists also say, listen, you guys are Mayavadi. This is the basic criticism that others have about Hinduism, about the Vedic thinking, that you ascribed everything to Maya. In the sense that you kind of escape the argument that, no, this is all due to Maya. Why don't I see things this is due to Maya. Everything is ascribed to Maya. It's like a scapegoat. This is not a new thinking. So you guys are called Mayavadins. Maya is very important in your thinking. The whole literature, etc., is all wrapped around Maya. Swamiji says this is the farthest thing from the truth. You know why? We are not Mayavadins, we are Brahmavadins. Just the opposite. We don't say everything is mithya. We say everything is Brahman. And Brahman has the ability to be the real as well as having copies around it. The copies are mithya, but Brahman itself is real. So don't call us as Mayavadins, we are Brahmavadins. Our whole drishti, our whole thinking, focus, endpoint is Brahman. You, as the very Atma, And so, and in order to do that, we think that we say, not only think, but we say, we see, don't you see that the whole world experiences is like a dream? So this is where the Mandukya Karika, Mandukya Upanishad is important, because it points out, so the prakriya, in the case of Mandukya Upanishad, so the prakriya means the method of explaining the truth. There are various methods given in the Vedanta Shastra. So for example, in the Taittiriya Upanishad, the method is the kosha prakriya. You start with Annamaya kosha, then you go to Manomaya kosha, then you go to Vijnana Pranamaya kosha, Manomaya kosha, Vijnanamaya kosha, and you keep going until you come to the Anandamaya kosha. And from the Anandamaya kosha you go to Ananda. This is what we are briefly examining in the 11th chapter of Panchadashi. So in Taittiriya Upanishad, the prakriya is kosha prakriya. Right? Okay. Then in other Upanishads and so on, different prakriyas are used. In the Mandukya Upanishad, the prakriya used is avasthatraya prakriya. Avasthatraya prakriya. Which means that here is what you need to see. This life that is all consuming to you, this is the reality that you see. Step back from it and see, no. How can I step back? Look at the avasthatraya, the three movies that are going on in your life at all times. You have the Jagrat Avastha. The avastha means a state, means an experience. It is not the reality, it's an experience. So there is the Jagrat Avastha, there is Swapna Avastha, then there is Sushupti Avastha. And the person that has all three of them is not limited to any one of them. It's like a movie actor that plays in 3 movies at the same time. And that person is not just the actor, he is the independent person that can act in 3 different movies without changing itself. When he comes home, he's the same person. He lies down on the pillow and so on, and that movie 1 is gone, movie 2 is gone, movie 3 is gone. So therefore, Vedanta says that, listen, life is a dream. Now, what do you mean by that? What we mean for that is a dream does not have the normal creation. Not have a normal creation. At least in the Jagrat Avastha, in the waking state, there is some normalcy of creation, because you have to be launched by your mom and dad. Unless they want to have a baby, you cannot be launched. So there is some kind of at least a semblance of a creation. But when you are dreaming, what kind of a creation process is there? And in fact, it's interesting. You cannot even tell when you go to sleep. You can tell when you woke up. As soon as you open your eyes, and if you have a clock, then you can say, oh, this is that time. There's a friend of mine who was saying that she was researching that when you are asleep and in the middle of the night you somehow woke up a little bit, and now as soon as a person wakes up in the middle of the night and it's all dark, you want to find out what time it is, isn't it? Is it? That happened to me this morning also, because I usually get up at 5 o'clock for this Saturday morning classes. And I woke up pretty early today, like 3:30 or so. And then I just saw what time is it? And then it was 3:30. Now I'm trying to go back to sleep and I couldn't, so I said this is fine. So woke up early, had tea and so on. It was fine. So this friend of mine said, here's the problem that she saw. She says, as soon as I open my eyes, I cannot see the clock. So I have to turn around and crane my neck to see the clock. And by that time, I'm fully awake. So she did some research and she found out that there is a device that projects the time on the ceiling. Apparently it's available. And it's not so bright that it brightens up the whole room. It should be till dark. But the projection is very visible. So when you're lying down and you get up, all you do is to see up to see, and then you say, it's 3:30. Then you close your eyes. And your mind is still kind of half awake and so says, just go back to sleep. You have a better chance. So she says, I did that for a long time. And so anyway, what I was saying was, you can find out when you are awake. You cannot tell when you go to sleep. If you keep on looking at the watch, a clock, all you can tell is that I remember seeing 10:33. But whether you went to sleep at 10:33 or 10:34 or 35, you don't know. Even sleep has no beginning. There's no creation of sleep. It just comes. Furthermore, there is even less of a creation of a dream. This is the point I wanted to make. The dream that you experience has no creation. It just pops up. It's an appearance. And it disappears. After frightening you and causing you all kinds of issues. And so, Gaudapadacharya says, listen, this is what the Vedas are saying. That even the Jagrata Avastha is like a dream which doesn't need to have a beginning. And it doesn't. It just pops up. The main thing we should all be worried about and concerned about is this going to go away? Don't be concerned about finding the creation. See, the quest for the various viewpoints, the various philosophies, the quest for finding the creation is, how do I erase it? When will it go? When will I find moksha? This is what everybody is saying. And what Vedanta is saying is, what Gaudapadacharya is saying is, it is not there, you fool. It is an appearance. And the moment you understand it's an appearance, you're done. You wake up. So you have to understand, do not waste your time looking at creation and how this thing is going to go and this, that or the other. It is so. What they're saying is, if you assume it's a creation, means that the creation is real, then your quest for finding a solution will be within the realm of the creation, isn't it? This is the topic this is the thing we should understand. I give that example where, you and your spouse are both kind of have some free time. Not these days. You don't have any free time to go outside and so on. But supposing you are just going to, kind of like a used car lot. And pretty soon these used car sales rep finds you. Oh, they are looking for something. So then they'll they'll say, this is a beautiful car. They'll all start with a color. This is an excellent color. And then what color would you like? And what kind of a model would you like? Would you like a 2-door or a 4-door? They involve you in the realm of what kind of a car. The basic thing is, should I even get a car or not? Similarly here also, the creationists are absorbed in the creation discussion when there is no creation to begin with. And so this is the thing. It has to be seen as an appearance, not as a real creation. And so Swami Paramarthananda made a very interesting point. He says, that you should respect the experience as a conditional reality, not an absolute reality. Means this is what is the conditional reality. The Sanskrit for that is Vyavaharika Sat. Vyavaharika Sat. Vyavahara means transactional reality. It has some transactional reality. And what do you mean by that? He makes a very interesting point. I think something I had not seen before. He says, what you need to do is to respect this life as a conditional reality. He says that, apparently he taught this in Viveka Chudamani in class. And he says, I said not to overestimate the world as absolute reality, but do not underestimate the world as though it is non-existent. Then he goes on to say, this is the important thing. How do you know that you are overestimating or underestimating? If you do your duty as you are assigned to do in this situation that you are not underestimating. If you have an attitude that this needs to be done, and I will do it. I will do it. So this is not underestimating. When you are underestimating, you refuse to do your duty. Now what is there? This is all mithya anyway. What difference does it make? You remember this example that Swami Maheshananji gave? I'll never forget this beautiful example. To make this point, that there was a guy who was, you'll recall this as soon as I tell you, who was given a role in a movie to drive a car very fast as a cop car to catch a robber. So there's a scene where the robber has robbed some 7-Eleven store or something, and he's now running away, and the cop just goes after it. And this scene is being filmed in for the movie. And the script is that the robber is faster than the cop. The cop has to be careful about not hitting somebody else and so on. So they have to weave in and out of the lanes very carefully. And so he loses the robber. This is the script. But you have to really be, driving pretty fast, over 100 miles per hour. So this guy says, oh, I'm a good driver, I'll be glad to do it. So then they started really filming it in almost like a real freeway situation where there were a lot of cars. And this fellow says, the script says that I will never be able to catch it. And so why should I drive the car so fast as to endanger my own life? So what I'm going to do is I'll go up to maybe the speed limit, a little bit higher than that, maybe 75, and then I will just lose him. So the cameraman behind them is saying, "What are you doing? You're supposed to catch this guy, and the movie hasn't even gone more than half a minute and he's gone. There has to be a real chase." And so the director accosts him at the end and says, "What'd you do? You were supposed to drive at 100 miles per hour. You only drove at 75. What happened?" He says, "I know the script. You think I'm a fool? I knew the script. You are the one who gave me the script which says you'll never be able to catch him. So I lost him a little bit early. So what's the big deal?" So the director says, "Okay, first of all, you're fired, and you not try to get another job, because I'll make sure you don't get another job." So here the same thing Swami Paramarthananda is saying, if you are underestimating the conditional reality, the Vyavaharika Sat, you will slacken your duty. What difference does it make? This is all mithya anyway. I don't have to really help anyone. I'll just be... No. And then the other side. If you are worrying about your duties, you are overestimating. And so Swami Paramarthananda very beautifully concludes, do your duty, but do not worry about it. Let Ishvara take care of the results. Karmani eva adhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. Gita verse. So this is the right relationship with mithya. And so this is the summary verse number 29. Now, he starts on number 30. Just 1 second, I want to double check what something. Yeah. Okay, so if continues on verse number 30. Anader antatattvam cha samsarasya cha setsyati anantata cha dimataha mokshasya bhavishyati. So he brings in another point. He says that the eternal cannot be a karanam. The eternal cannot be... See, this is what he was saying earlier, just to summarize, that you are saying that this changing relationship between tree and a seed, father and a son, is eternal. It goes on and on. It has some kind of an end. How that end is, we're not sure what you're saying. But let's assume for a minute it is eternal. Okay? So, this is eternity, means no beginning. We don't have to look for how did it all begin, because any of the theories about how it began can be dismantled. We've already done that to verse number 10 to 13 and 14 to 23 and so on. We've done that. So it is eternal. But now here's the situation. The eternal is also changing, isn't it? The eternal is not unchanging, it is changing. It is changing. How do you have eternity which is changing? So the science also brings in their viewpoint at this point, and they say, well, the matter and energy, you just interchange, nothing ever goes away. One thing changes into another, and then backing into matter, then energy, and so on. This is the E is equal to mc squared thing, and so on. So that's how it is, and this works. We said no, it doesn't work. Why not? Because we have to look at the end point. The end point is the nature of freedom and moksha. Okay, they say, all right, fine. We say that if you look upon this changing world as real, eternal means real, that means there is duality. That means there is duality. So here's the point. If you just shift the dialogue to include the science. You shift the dialogue to focus on science. Here is the issue. The signs as we see them is only talking about the experiences. It is not concerned about moksha. You see, if you go to some university where they are doing fundamental particle research, and they're highfalutin PhD people, very bright and very subtle in their thinking, and they're all they want to do. I mean, this is reality. I mean, we are spending probably billions of dollars in particle physics. And if you go there and you don't even understand the language that they use, let alone all the equipment and so on. It's all very sophisticated. And you tell them, wait a second, what is all this you're doing? Oh, well, we're doing this particle physics. And then you say, but what about moksha? They say, what? What are you talking about? What is moksha? Moksha means that I want to be totally unconditionally be happy. They'll say, you are at the wrong place. Just go to a church. This is not a church. This is a laboratory. So Gaudapadaji says in verse number 30 that listen, they are not concerned about duality and moksha and happiness and so on. They are just have a tunnel vision, and they want to look at what the nature of the universe is, whether it is matter, is it energy, how it changes, all of that. So we say, no, you cannot do that, because if you keep on doing it the way you're doing it, you cannot postulate the end of the samsara. If you hold Dvaita, Dvaita means really not duality but multiplicity. Yes, there's multiplicity in the whole creation. It doesn't lead to moksha. And so therefore, we say that if the scientists say, well, all right, so fine, and forget about the scientists you look at, because the scientists will never even look at the spiritual aspect of it. They say that's not my job. But if you look at some of the other philosophies, they'll say, okay, now shifting the focus back from the scientists back to the Buddhists and others and so on, they'll say, well, what are you talking about it? Fine, you're criticizing us that we can never gain moksha because our change is eternal. What are you saying? We say that we are saying that moksha is not a happening. I am not going to gain moksha. I am already free, but I am confused about it. That's all. It is not as though I am non-muktaha. Muktaha means free. It's not as though I am not free now and will become free later. I've always been free. But there is a certain self-ignorance about me, which is a possibility. We have seen this in so many examples. The best example is the 10th man example. Because someone can say, how can you always be free and not know it? Here Swami Tattvavidananda ji had given this beautiful example. He said, he has seen this in villages. This happens. It happens is that cows, when they are calves, when they're young, and you don't want to lose them, you have to make sure you tie them up after you become a little bit older, because if the cow mother is there, then she will take care of not losing the child. But as soon as the calf becomes a little older, then you have to make sure that you teach that young cow that, listen, you cannot leave the periphery of my yard. Cows are very expensive. This used to be the entire wealth of the old people, of the people in the old days. And so cows are very expensive. It's the whole, that supports the whole family. And so you have to make sure nobody takes it away and it just doesn't wander away. So you tie it with some kind of a rope. You tie it with a 50-foot rope and it can go around about 100 feet of diameter. Swami Tattvavidananda says, after a while, if you only have 1 or 2 ropes and you have 5 cows, then how can you do that? So Swamiji says it is well known in the villages that after you've trained them, you take the rope away and now they will behave as though they are tied with the rope. This is the example. They are not really tied with the rope, but they feel that they are tied with the rope and they don't go away. A very funny situation, really. This is exactly our situation. We are free, but we think we are not free. So therefore we say to all of these other people who say, what about you? What about your moksha? We say, moksha never begins. Everyone is always free. How? Because our nature is Paramatma, of Ishvara, Brahman. That is the core of who we are. But there is an interesting phenomena that we are born to appreciate it. We don't appreciate it yet. This is the whole purpose of life. We are born to appreciate that we are free. In fact, we are looking for Ishvara. The whole purpose of life. You have to be careful in how you present this. People may laugh at you. But the fact of the matter is, if somebody says, what is the goal of everyone in our life? We are looking for Ishvara. We are looking for freedom. We discussed this in the last class of the Drikdrishya Viveka, and this will be expanded even more today, later on in the second class. But this is the fact. We are all looking for freedom, which is the very nature of Ishvara. So the moksha is already there. It doesn't have to start anywhere. This is what our point is. So we are free in spite of things happening. We don't care. It's just that in the beginning, I I overestimate because of the sense of reality, and I worry about things. And once that instruction is very clear, once the Upadesha is clear to me, when the Shastra starts to work on me, then I will see that it has some transactional reality, Vyavaharika Sat, but no ultimate reality. So this is the essence of the verse number 30. Okay. Here Swami Paramarthananda made an interesting point that he says that the sense of my being free despite things happening is referred to in the Bhagavad Gita on the 14th verse of the 2nd chapter, which says, Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkadaha agama paino nityaha tam stitikshasva bharata. So the English translation of that is, Hey Arjuna, the sense organs and objects which cause cold, heat, pleasure and pain are subject to arrival and departure. They are impermanent. Endure them. And we endure. This is not like saying what cannot be cured must be endured. It isn't like that. It means that if you understand that what begins and ends, really you can only take half of it, in fact. What begins must end, but you don't have to think about the ending. Just think about the beginning. What begins will one day end, and you will outlast it. As we have said, this is the essence of the word Param. Parabrahma, Param. Param means one which is above. It's like the water. The waves began and the waves will end, but the water stays. It's at a higher level than the waves. And so therefore, mithyatvam, the very definition of what is mithya, is, in fact, mithyatvam has 4 points. This is an interesting thing to see. That mithyatvam is defined by 4 aspects. One is that it never began. Actually, you can say that the mithya object begins. So in fact, let's do it the other way around. Let's look at the worlds. So 4 points. The existence of the world is negated. The origination of the world is negated. The appearance of the world is accepted. And the appearance due to the Maya Shakti is accepted. It's just a culmination of what we were already saying, that really it never began, it just appeared. And the appearance, like the verse in Matra Sparshastu Kaunteya, will always go. Whatever appears will go. And what is the background behind that will stay. So the appearance of the world is accepted. The origination of the world is negated. And the appearance is going to go once the understanding takes place. This is the basic aspect of what Vedanta's teaching is. And so now, if you look at verse number 31, this point is further discussed in the Karika, which says Adavante cha yatrasti vartamanepi tattatha Vitathaihi sadrishaha santaha avititha iva lakshitaha. And so, which says, that which does not exist in the beginning and in the end, this is the important point, the one that did not exist before the beginning is called prak abhavaha. Abhavaha means there is nothing, there is no bhava for it, like an instrument, like a golden ornament. Before the ornament took place, there was not there. So this is called prak abhavaha. Then after it is possible that it may disappear also, which is called pradhvamsa abhavaha. So post non-existence and pre-non-existence. These are the 2 points. The truth is that anything that has this characteristic, even the middle one also does not really exist. It is just an appearance. So please understand this well. Remember this way of logic, that this is the logic of mithya, which means something that begins, which appears to begin, which doesn't really begin, but which appears to begin, will now cease to appear. And while it is there, it is really not there. This is the essence of the appearance. And so here, in this verse, which I think is given in some other Upanishads also, number 31, that which does not exist in the beginning and in the end also is the same as in the middle. Adau ante cha yat nasti vartamane api tat tatha. Then what is the second line? Even though they are identical with unreal objects, they are regarded as though real. Vitathaihi sadrishaha santaha avitatha iva lakshitaha. So, I want to see what time it is. 9:20. Yeah, I think I can finish this whole section. It will be nice. So, one very interesting thing that is pointed out, that Gaudapada, his shishya, his student was Govindapada. And Govindapada's shishya was Shankaracharya, Adi Shankara. You know that already. So he is the Parama Guru. Now, each one of them, in fact just the 2 of them, there's not much known about Govindacharya. Obviously he was a teacher of Adi Shankara, so he knew as much if not more than Adi Shankara. That's the very nature of the parampara. He may not have written a lot of work and so on. Everybody is slightly different. But if you look at the Gaudapada's emphasis versus Shankaracharya's emphasis, if we just compare those 2, what is said is that Gaudapada emphasizes Ajativada. Gaudapada emphasizes non-creation. He's very tough. He says, I don't care whether you are ready for it or not, this is the situation. He's looking at the end point. End point is the same for everyone. So the end point is it doesn't exist. Never began. Adi Shankara, on the other hand, felt that this way of depicting the experience will not be initially accepted by the students. So therefore, he opted to go into Mithyavada. And as you know, that a lot of the Vedic instructions do talk about creation. And we discussed this last class and probably the class before that, that it is like just a some kind of a help to understand. But then you remove the help. Like for example, supposing you are not well and you want to get some crutches. So crutches are a help just to get you to that point. After that you can throw away the crutches. And so Gaudapadacharya ji goes away, talks about that you don't need the crutches. So Ajativada means that it had never began. What are you talking about? So he's much more concerned about the final vision. Adi Shankara, on the other hand, feels more sympathy for the various stages of understanding. And it says, for the time being, please accept the fact that there is some creation, but try to understand that the creation is a mithya. So he is a mithyavadi. They are not saying different things, but they are emphasizing different things. That's all that was being said. So now to end the whole thing, this is verse number 31. Then we can just very briefly, just to make sure that we are making good progress and we wrap up the whole thing, let us look at the summary of 32 to 35. So we will end with that. So this is the entire discussion about the non-origination and the fact that it is just a appearance and how it will go, all of that is now summarized in the verses number 32 to 35. And so this is also given, Gaudapada actually summarizes these points that were given in the second Karika. In the second chapter, verses number 6, 7, 8, and so on, some reference is given here. So some of those points are repeated here. This is now summarizing the whole thing. And he also adds a couple of new points, Gaudapada ji. One of the points he adds is, so you can actually quickly go through 32 to 35. One of the points he adds to this, which was not done in the Vaithatya Prakaranam, in the second chapter of the Karika, is to characterize the dreamlike experience that one has. And this is also given elsewhere. So, for example, the dream means that you don't have a place to accommodate what you are experiencing. You're experiencing roads and people. You don't have enough space in your brain to accommodate that. So it's obviously something funny going on. Another thing he adds here is that a dream conversation with a friend cannot be verified with that friend upon waking. You cannot do that. So that means that there is absolutely no reality to it. And if you gave a gift, if you lent some money to a friend, and you wake up and you say, "Where is that money?" you'll be laughed at. This means that there is really no reality to the dream. And here Swami Maheshananji, I think, in many of these cases, the arguments remain the same. But the way they are presented and when they are presented, a lot of this really makes a big difference. I remember this very point about mithya and so on, and I forget where it was I think it must have been in Panchadashi, because for the last 2 years or so I've been really meticulously reading Swami Maheshananji's commentary on the Panchadashi. I think that's one of the best thing I've ever done. He points out, you know how serious you are about this life, your family, your friends. He said in the argument that really made a big difference to me. He says, do you know you have done this thousands of times before? You had spouses and children and mothers and fathers. They're gone. You are still there, but they're gone. See, just imagine this. So you were there before the present experience. And you will be there when the present experience is gone. Is it not mithya? Is it not like a dream? Of course it is. And in confirmation of this argument, Swami Maheshanji pointed out, and I think I remember that from the same thing that Swami Dayananji had also told, that Adi Shankara was teaching this to his mother. And said, Mom, don't be concerned that much about me, because you've had many sons before and you're not concerned about me. And I'm also going to be gone. You'll still be there. This is an important really way of looking at my life. This is the reality. It's not like you're callous, so you don't. So you do your duty. This is the same point that Swami Paramarthananda made very nicely, connecting it to karmani eva adhikaraste. It's not as though you neglect it. Then you will be underestimating. But do not overestimate, because it's going to go. You'll survive it, as you have done in thousands of cases. We are not human beings constructed in one lifetime. It takes us millions of lifetimes to become to this point. And so this is the last capsule of Vedanta, as Swami Paramarthananda points out, that I am never affected by any event that takes place in my life. And I am asanga. This knowledge is a very powerful shock absorber. Very powerful. That I should really have a smile in my mind. Whatever happens, happens. Eventually, if it's not affecting me even now, but eventually I will understand that it is not affecting me. So we are now up to verse number 35, and we will begin a new section in the next class. So I think we have covered quite a bit of material with not as many classes. So I'm happy with at least I am happy. I don't know if you are, with the pace of the summarization that is taking place of the very essence of the Karika and Mandukya. Mandukya, I think we will, once we finish the Karika, we will maybe take one class or so, maybe even two, about the Mandukya itself, so that we are clear about it, and then this will be the end. Okay. Om Swasti Prajabhyah Paripalayantam Nyayena Margena Mahim Mahisha Gro Brahmanebhya Shubhamastu Nityam Loka Samastha Sukhino Bhavantu Kale Varshatu Parjanya Prithvi Sasya Shalini Deshoyam Shobharahitaha Brahmana Santu Nirbhayaha Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet Asato Ma Satkamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Okay, let's see if you have any questions. Okay, Mandukya Karika, this one. Don't see any questions. I'll wait for a while to see if you have any questions. Doesn't look like it, so thank you. We will see you next week. Om